Hey everybody, this is Rustin with Metalholic. With me today, the lovely and talented Anne Autumn Erickson of Upon Wings. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing well. I get a chance to talk with you, and it's been a while. I apologize. We should have done this a few months ago. Now I'm kicking myself because the EP, Afterlife, is going to be coming out here on March 5th, right?
Yep.
So, and I want to talk about that, but first, because there's so many people out there who don't even know who you are yet and what Upon Wings is all about. So if you don't mind, let's backtrack a little bit. And if you could tell us the story of where and when the musical journey sort of began for you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, it was way back in '08, which seems like so long ago. That's when I first really had the vision for Upon Wings. And I ended up writing some music and recording some stuff, but we didn't really properly release anything until last year. And basically, I really grew up listening to not only rock, but like, you know, the blockbuster musical soundtracks like Les Miserables and Phantom of the Opera. I'm a big Andrew Lloyd Webber fan and big fan of Cole Wilkinson, and that kind of music really inspired me. But I wanted to kind of create a rock band, you know, something that didn't sound theatrical really, but it was just more just like a hard-hitting rock band. So that was the vision, and yeah, I'm really excited that finally we have a full EP coming out this March. So it's been a long time in the works.
Long before you got the idea to do Upon Wings, was there sort of a moment growing up, that epiphany moment, if you will, whether it was hearing a song, seeing a concert or something, where something just snapped for you and you said, that's what I want to do?
That's a good question. You know, one of my favorite bands is actually AFI, and I do remember seeing them for the first time in concert and just being blown away by the dramatics of their show and thinking, you know, this is something I'd really like to do, to make music like this, because especially on like their Sing the Sorrow album, they don't have quite as much of that punk influence that they were known for years and years. Just more dramatic, and music and everything was really dramatic. And so, yeah, I think that was definitely, you know, a moment seeing them and getting into them where I thought, you know, I think that I could do something down the rock vein, in the rock vein.
When did you sort of discover that you had the pipes to do this?
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, I don't know. I always sang when I was 4 years old. My mom threw me on stage. She was a director. And so she put me in one of her musicals, and everyone was like, oh, your daughter has a really loud voice. And that was years later, actually, when I started singing. And so everyone always said, wow, you know, she has quite a voice. And so I just pursued it throughout high school and in college. So, yeah, so it's just, I guess it just kind of came to be.
Well, and you've got, you know, a beautiful mezzo-soprano voice, and because of the type of music you do and the signature with which you perform your stuff, there's a lot of classical, a lot of operatic leanings and everything. There are going to be the inevitable comparisons to the likes of Evanescence and Within Temptation and such. Do you see that as a positive or a hindrance for what you want to do with Upon Wings?
I mean, I think that those bands are all really talented, so I take it as a compliment. I think it's definitely a positive. I mean, you never want to be lumped into a category and then not, you know, be considered for other things. You don't want to sound too much like anyone else, but I think when people compare us to those bands, I don't think they mean, oh, you sound just like that. I think it just helps people kind of understand, you know, how to comprehend the music. Like, oh, okay, this is kind of like this certain band. So I take it as a good thing. Right.
And now on the EP Afterlife, again, which comes out on March 5th, you had a lot of incredible people involved in the making of this EP. If you will, tell us a little bit about how it came together and, of course, how you connected with Brett Hessler to work on this.
Yeah, well, I've been a fan of Brett for a while. He did great work with Dark New Day, and, of course, he toured with Creed as their bass player in Virgo's Merlot. So he just has, you know, a great history there in the rock world. And I wanted to collaborate with him on something, so I ended up getting in touch with his manager, and I sent them some demos, and they took a listen, and they said, yeah, you know, Brett would like to do something. So that's really how I got introduced to Brett. And then, let's see, Glenn Brown also has been really awesome. He mastered the EP, and he also helped with production and keyboards and synths on a few of the tracks. And he's based in Michigan, and he's actually Kid Rock's recording engineer.
Right.
And so he's something that I just got to know in the Michigan music scene, and he's always just been really great. So it was awesome to work with him as well.
Right, and you also had Kevin Jardine, I believe, was involved, for those who know who Slaves on Dope are.
Yeah, and he's great too. He's such a great guitarist. I mean, man, when he actually recorded the guitars in Canada, which is where he's based.
Right.
And when he sent me the tracks with, the guitars, I was just blown away. His guitar work is so sick, and he's such a great soloist. So I was so excited to get him on this project. And then Peter, as well, from that band, also played drums, and he's a killer drummer. So
you did a lot of the recording stuff at Johnny K's studio there in Chicago. How did that come about?
Well, Brett ended up coming up here to do the vocals. So I'm from Michigan, and Chicago's so close. I looked into some studios in Detroit, and they were all really great. But I've always wanted to record at Groove Master. I mean, there's so much history there, and some of my favorite bands have recorded there, like Disturbed and Stained and Three Doors Down, Pop Evil, who's the latter is also from Michigan.
Right.
And so I was just like, man, if we could record there. And so we ended up being able to book a room there for one day, just a studio room. So we had to do it all in one day, but we got it for 12 hours. So we had our time, and it was really cool because some other bands were actually recording the same day we were there. Dan Donegan was there working on some Art of Dying stuff.
Right.
And then the Alien Ant Farm were there. So it was such an honor, to be there recording and making music with those guys in the building.
Absolutely. So you had all this great talent. You had the material. So it all came together so well. And you're getting great response to it so far. Sirius Octane, I believe, has picked it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been spinning it a ton this week, and we're so grateful. I mean, it's such an honor to be on Octane, just, biggest rock station pretty much in the country, and just such a great station.
Now, for you, is there going to be an opportunity for you guys to play live? Because the guys who played on the album are in various different places. And the kind of music you guys play is going to require a lot of time practicing and rehearsing and getting out there. Have you thought about putting together a regular full-time band and doing some club gigs, or you just sort of waiting?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope for later on this year, to book some gigs and play some live shows. So the lineup is, not completely set yet, the live lineup, but I have hopes that we'll be able to somehow bring it all together and make it work.
Now, I always have to ask, because it's always interesting when you ask a female vocalist who your as a vocalist, who your sort of inspirations were, who you took some of your ideas from in finding your own voice view. Well, and the interesting thing when asking a female vocalist is almost inevitably they name almost exclusively male vocalists. Is it the same for you?
It kind of is. That's funny. It kind of is. I think maybe because there are fewer female vocalists out there who are fronting rock bands, you don't really, at least for me, I don't really grab onto one and say, okay, that was my inspiration, because there just aren't many of them, and you end up listening to guys more and just developing your own style, as opposed to just listening to other women. So, I mean, I would say as far as, vocalists that have really inspired me, some of them don't sound anything like Upon Wings, like Aaron Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Always really music, and I just think he has a great way of making you feel what he feels when he sings.
Right.
And I think he's great. I've always liked Maynard from Perfect Circle and Tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, those would be, there's so many, though. There's so many. Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins. Davey Havoc from ASI. Yeah, there's so many, but yeah, mainly men. Rebecca Kane from the Toronto original cast, The Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
Love her voice. So I guess, picking a female, I would pick her, but she's not the front woman of a rock band.
So, you get your inspiration and stuff, by whatever intrigues you. And that's the thing that's why I love doing this and talking about music and everything, because you never know where it's going to come from. There's always surprises. So So what are you into outside of music? Tell us a little bit about what you like to do when you're not working and doing the music.
It's so funny. It's hard because I love music so much. It seems like anything I do always has to do with music. I do like football though, and I'm an MSU fan, Michigan State University for college football. So I do like football.
So, and does that mean I know you're a college football person? Does that mean though that you're rooting for anybody in particular for the Super Bowl coming up this weekend?
I'm not. I'm a big Lions fan, so I was bummed that we didn't do as well last year or this year as I had hoped. It was awesome to make the playoffs last year. That was really exciting. But I guess I don't really have a favorite. Do you have a favorite?
Mine is the Steelers, and they're not playing. But it's going to be an intriguing Super Bowl to have the 49ers in it again. And so I'm interested to see what happens. So besides football, then, what else what are you passionate about? Are there any hobbies or strange oddities about Anne Erickson we should know?
Hobbies. I'm trying to think of stuff that's completely not music related. I consider myself kind of artistic. I like framing things, and I like attempting to paint and do artistic things like that. So
nice.
That's one thing. I'm drawing a blank. This is so funny.
So
non-music things. I like reading. Who doesn't like reading?
You'd be surprised. It's a shame these days with all the technology. People have stopped reading because they're so visually connected. What do you like to read? Any particular authors or genres or?
Pretty much everything. I like a lot of nonfiction, which is kind of weird, but just learning about different things. I'll pick up a documentary type, book on something and just get into it. So I'm not big on novels or 40 Shades of Grey or anything like that.
That's probably a good thing. How does this stuff parlay into your lyrical content?
My lyrics tend to come to me based on just random inspirations. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll just think of something. Usually it's like a theme, and then I kind of just start writing things down, and then it ends up becoming like a lyrical verse. So I don't think I get much inspiration for my lyrics from necessarily reading anything in particular. I just think it's life stuff that happens, and you just kind of want to make some art out of it.
So when you write your songs, because we haven't talked about this, I don't know if you actually play any instruments or not. Do you use your voice for everything when you write the music and whatnot, or do you actually play guitar or piano or something to sort of sketch out the ideas?
Yeah, usually it's my voice. I play a little bass guitar, but it's hard to write on a bass guitar anyway.
Yeah.
So I really write, on my bass. But especially for this EP, for the heavier songs, basically Kevin or Brett would send me some music that they had done the guitars and everything, and so I would hear that, and I would develop a melody out of it, and then I would find some of my lyrics that usually I had already written and just find some lyrics that seemed to fit the song. And so it would kind of start out with someone doing the basic, the guitar part, and then I would end up writing vocals with that.
Take us, if you would, because there's only the 4 tracks. Give us a quick little backstory on each of the 4 tracks, starting with Afterlife.
Oh, cool. With Afterlife, that song just came to me, and it was last year, and it's basically, it's about losing someone that you love, and all of the pain that goes with that, but then also the hope and the belief that you'll see that person again. And so, it just kind of came to me, and I thought it's something that people could relate to. So that was the basic theme of that one. And You Are My Weapon, it kind of carries a similar theme. I had the idea for the lyrics, but I didn't realize it would kind of end up being that same theme. But it's kind of just about, again, missing someone and being like, you're my weapon. I can't face, life without you, because you're basically the thing that I have that I can in my life, you're my weapon. So, again, I hope that it's something that people can relate to. And takeaway is, that actually is one of the songs I started writing a long, long time ago. And what I like about that is that it has more of a symphonic vibe. Mm-hmm. Glenn Brown, some really cool synths on there, and some cool keys. And so I would say just from a musical standpoint, I really like how the track turned out because there's a lot of layering of different instruments, and I just think it's a really unique sounding track. And then The Dream is another song that I've been working on for a long time, and that's a song that came to me, quicker than almost anything. And that's a song where actually I just wrote the whole song with no instruments and went in, and then we ended up figuring out, some instruments to go with it. But that's the only song where I really just came up with the whole melody and everything before we even had any music to go along with it.
Now,
so.
you had limited time when you went in the studio, so you pretty much had to have this stuff ready, but did any of the songs sort of take a left turn once you got ready to do them that you weren't expecting, that came out a little bit different than your original intent?
Yeah, I think that probably Afterlife is the best example of that because we basically did Afterlife at Groove Master, and the other songs were recorded all over the place. Like I mentioned, Kevin did the guitars in Canada, and we did some stuff here in Michigan. So, Afterlife was the Groove Master thing. And with that song, Brett and I really changed the bridge a lot. I had, written melodies and lyrics and everything. And when we got in the studio, the bridge just completely changed. So I think it's good, though, when you can go in and you can change something, even if you had envisioned it one way, if you just go with the moment and go with what ends up working when you're actually there doing the song. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's great that you have the ability, that you're not so stuck in that place where it's got to be this way, and you can allow the song to breathe and grow, even if you thought you already knew where it was. So, is there an album that is sort of your go-to album, whether you're down or whether you need inspiration, or it's just your overall favorite album of all time, whatever you want to call it? Is there that one album that you turn to really get you up and motivated?
That's a great question, and it's so hard because it changes every month. It really does. I think it would be impossible to just name one, but
So what would it be now, then?
What would it be now?
What's your go-to album of February? Well, it's not February yet. January 2013.
I really actually liked the latest Linkin Park album, Living Things. So, today, as of today, if I want to hear something and I'm going to grab an album to listen to get me out of a funk or something, it would probably be that album. And what I like about that album is, Linkin Park has been around for over a decade now. And they came out with, obviously, Hybrid Theory and Meteora, and those were just such great albums. And the fact that, to me, I love this new album, that they were able to do it again is pretty rare. I just don't think you see that many bands who 10 years later, at least for me, I'll grab their stuff 10 years later, and it's oh, it's good, but it's not like the originals. And here, I love the album. I think it's just as good as the early stuff.
Anne Erickson of Upon Wings, the new EP Afterlife will be out on March 5th. Now, is that going to be available digital only, or are you guys going to be selling physical copies as well?
That'll be digital only. It'll be up on iTunes, and it'll probably be up eventually on Amazon, but for now we're just putting it up on iTunes. And it's also available for pre-order right now, too. Beautiful.
So, and of course, we can find you on Facebook, but you've also got uponwings.com, right?
Yep, uponwings.com.
Beautiful. Anne, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us. We look forward to the EP hitting and hopefully getting more and more radio exposure. And then ultimately, we look for the full-length album sometime in the not-too-distant future so we can hear much more of what's going on in your world.
Well, thank you so much. I had a lot of fun. Thanks.
Absolutely. Take care, and we'll talk with you soon.